All right, guys, we are joined by our big guest of the week. He's actually a two-time Super Bowl champion, played over 10 years in the league, was an All-American in college. This guy came up through the ranks, played 4 years. You know, you get people that jump ship after a time, and he realized the need to develop and had camaraderie, and this was before NIL. His name is Gray Ruegamer. He played at Arizona State University, played in the NFL, played on multiple teams, was drafted by the Dolphins, played for the Patriots, played for the Packers, played for the Giants, earned a couple of Super Bowl rings, and played with some pretty darn good people. Here on the Varsity Sports Show is Gray Ruegamer. Gray, welcome to the program.
Vince, thanks for having me, man.
I am so excited to talk to you because I've known you 30 years now, and I saw you come up through the ranks. You grew up in Las Vegas. You went to Arizona State. We were there for a time together,
Yep.
and you developed and you grew. Talk about the foundation. First of all, let's back up. Let's talk about the recruiting process from what you remember and how you ended up at Arizona State out of high school.
I was not a big recruit at all. I was kind of a skinny fat kid coming out of high school. And
Huh?
I didn't stop growing until I got to ASU. So I was just, playing football in Vegas and ended up on the radar of some small schools, UNLV, that being the local one. And, I think Coach Gazzetta found me by accident. They were recruiting someone else at my high school.
Yeah.
And they saw me on tape because we played this little game of knockdown. And whoever is just for fun, for points or whatever. And yeah, and in order to have a knockdown, you had to be on film. Well, to be on film, you have to be around the ball. So we were always running after the receivers and just trying to knock people down. And I got noticed that way.
So you came to ASU and you were a 4 year starter.
Yep.
And you started 4 years. And I remember your first start was against the University of Washington in 1995 in Seattle.
Yep.
And you were an offensive tackle for a couple of years. And then you moved inside to center. What was that transition like for you?
It's a vastly different skill set going from the outside to the inside, interior offensive line play. And it's, you go from having space to having no space. You're playing between two guards, now you're making calls. And you're typically dealing with the bigger dudes on the line, the nose tackles, the three techniques, that type of movement outside. At the time, they were kind of smaller and faster guys. So the transition was tough just because it's a different set of, techniques and
Yeah.
everything else. But, the communication, I was fortunate to play with a bunch of great dudes there and they helped that transition out. So it was more just getting reps and making sure that every day you brought something to the table and try to get better.
The one thing about first of all, you started in the Rose Bowl. You actually started on a couple of bowl teams, but the Rose Bowl probably being the pinnacle your junior year in college. What was that experience like?
you know Hindsight is 2020. It was awesome. I think we had such a unique team at that time. All the guys there, it was another game that we wanted to play and win and dominate, but you realize, after the fact that you're playing in the Rose Bowl, this huge venue, and even more so now, watching bowl games. And I watched, the Rose Bowl, and I remember being on the field and some of those things. So it's super cool. I mean, those are experiences very few people get to have, and I was fortunate to play with a bunch of great dudes and coaches on that field. And unfortunately, we lost, to that school over, in Ohio.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter.
No, of course not. No. And then fast forward, okay, another year. You played in the Sun Bowl the next year and
Yep.
and had a stellar season. You were Playboy All American, and it was just a. Did you meet Hugh Hefner, by the way? I was going to ask you about that.
No, I did not want to meet Hugh. Wanted to meet everyone else associated with
Yeah, everyone else at the
him.
house, at the
Yeah.
mansion. Okay. So let's talk about the NFL draft. So when you were getting ready for all of that, those guys come in, those scouts, and they
Yep.
poke and prod. You do a bunch of tests. What were some of the projections? I know ultimately you were a third rounder, but how did all that shake out?
So, the draft is a weird thing because, every team has a pick. There's 32 teams, every round, and you just kind of hurry up and wait. I don't know where I ranked. I think I was one of the top centers in the country, and I don't know where I was, ranked as far as, getting drafted. But a lot of people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, yeah, you're going to be a first round pick. I hear it from our guys, who we pick up now with the Packers.
Right.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a first day guy or whatever. Dude, it's all based on team need. And
Yeah.
remember, there's very few positions like this in the world. So, kind of going through the draft and waiting, I didn't know where I was going to go. I could have been first, second, third. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I didn't put a lot of stock into it. And after, some of the players that I knew were coming off the board that were offensive linemen, centers, guards, you pay attention. But I was out in San Diego and I just went for a swim. I went out in the ocean, screwed around, got salty, came back in, had a beer. Was like, all
Yeah.
right, well,
Did you
where are we
know,
at?
like, did you have a favorite team? Was there one team that ended up, not drafting you? The Dolphins drafted you, but was there one team where you thought, man, I'm going to them because they're showing the most interest? I like that coach. I mean, was there one, hindsight, looking back?
No, no one really stuck out. I went to the combine, talked to all these teams, and then it was dead quiet. I didn't take a trip. Like no one flew me in to visit their team. There was
Yeah.
none of that. So it literally, I just went back to training. There was no. I never talked to the Dolphins. So when
Wow.
they drafted me, Jimmy Johnson calls me up. Hey, Greg, decided to bring you down to Miami. Are you excited to be a Dolphin? You don't tell Jimmy Johnson like I can't stand Florida, I hate Miami.
Yeah.
But yes, sir, coach.
Yeah. Right. The,
Heading your way.
okay, so transition before we get into your NFL career and really talk about that. Let's take a step back. And today, now you've got NIL and you got players, collegiate players jumping from team to team. That wasn't the case way back when,
No.
with your team at Arizona State and being, picked to finish in the middle of the conference and then being playing for a national championship with, over 20 guys that ultimately signed NFL contracts. How would things have been different if there was NIL back then?
Ooh. Well, I probably wouldn't have had to eat 5 for 5 tacos and 5 for 5 at Arby's, with the last of my loot check money.
Yeah.
I probably would have had a little better nutrition.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would have changed the way we operated because we had a tight knit group.
Yeah.
We held each other accountable, and like if you missed a workout or a practice, or you just like something flipping happened, or like, oh yeah, hey man, I forgot. That did not fly, and we kind of policed our own locker room, and we got rid of guys. If you didn't fit the mold, or you weren't fitting the work ethic, or something like that, we check in on you, make sure you were okay. But if it was just a lack of effort, man, we did not put up with that at all.
Wow.
And I think it was across the board. We fought a lot too. And
Yeah.
you get tired, you get surly, and I'm sure you remember some of those fights at practice. But it was typically
Oh yeah.
guys that weren't pulling their weight,
Right.
and there
Yeah.
was a high amount of accountability there. And I don't know that NIL would have affected that piece of
Yeah.
it, but yeah, definitely nutrition probably would have been better. What probably would have, well, I might have drank more beer and ate more pizza, but it's college. We're
It's a
crushing
staple in college. Yeah. Okay. So Miami Dolphins, you were with them a year. That didn't work out. You ended up with the Patriots. How
Yep.
how was all of that with regard now? Were you traded or was it a free agent situation or how'd that go?
So that was Jimmy Johnson's last year in the league. When he drafted me, he coached one more year, and then Dave Wannstedt took over.
Okay.
So that transition, I was not part of the Wannstedt plan. So I was released after my second training camp, and then was signed actually to Pittsburgh on the practice squad.
Okay.
And I was there for 10 weeks, and then I was picked up active the last 6 weeks of that season up in New England. And that's when I first realized you go from college. That's when I first realized it's a business. Like
Yeah.
you do not like it's separate. Like I play with guys for 3 and 4 years, and you're playing with a guy, sometimes a new guy every week on the offensive line because they're rotating guys in and out. But guys' careers are done after that, and you don't see him again. It's not like you're on scholarship. Oh yeah, hey, he got hurt. He'll be back next week or next year. It's like sign hard, man. Like this is a business, and
Hard to build.
that's what really
Yeah.
stuck with me.
Camaraderie. It was real difficult to develop that type of brotherhood. I mean, how do you forge those that, especially on an offensive line where you guys got to play together? How do you do that?
So we spent a lot of time because we were all new in New England. That was Bill's second year. We spent a lot of time just hanging out. We'd go grab meals together, grab some beers, hang out in the off season, and we purposely did things together while we're at the facility. Then we'd go grab lunch together.
Yeah.
So we had to make it a point to go do those things. We didn't just go home and, oh hey, just show up to work. Like it was important to us to have that camaraderie because I got to depend on you for
Yeah.
my job performance. So we were all young and kind of hungry to get after that piece of it. And that's just kind of what we did.
Uh, Played in the Super Bowl in '01, and it was Tom Brady's first one.
Yep.
Did you realize how good the guy was back then?
No, I mean, he could manage games. You knew he had talent. I don't think anyone could have predicted, the career that Tom had, unless you probably asked Tom. Tom probably always knew.
Yeah.
But there's the inklings of it, right? You can see the seed and the development of that process and how good it's going to be. I wish I could tell you, oh yeah, new day one, snap one. No, it was a learning curve for all of us because
Yeah.
Bill runs a tight ship, and if
Yeah.
you didn't do the system, you didn't do the system, and you were probably not going to be there.
You ended up okay. You had a couple years there, and then you ended up in Green Bay, which is where you work now. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then you went to another Super Bowl with the Giants. The one thing
Yes.
that's interesting about the center position, and you played with some great quarterbacks. I mean, you obviously played with Tom Brady, you played with Brent Favre, you played with Kurt Warner, you played some really good quarterbacks, and some others. And there's nobody on an offense that probably touches the football more than the center. Would you agree with that? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
center quarterback. Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
we got to
So
start the play.
yeah, so as you look at that, and not only having to manage the rest of the guys around you, I mean, there's a lot of accountability that the center has to endure. They always give all the glory to the quarterback, but do you think the center should be the second highest paid person on the offense or the first?
Absolutely. So definitely second quarterback.
Okay.
I guess they should be first, but definitely offensive linemen need to
Yeah.
step it up. Left tackles, not center.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then of course transitioning into retirement. You got into fitness and working with athletes and then ended up back where you spent 3 to 4 years of your career, director of player engagement. How what type of insight can you give guys in your current role now that you think could help them maybe that you didn't have when you were a player?
Um, I think a big piece of it, especially what we see coming out of high school and college, is you see like a one sport player or like a very specific, hey, I only play right guard or I only
Yeah.
play D tackle. Dude, play as many sports as you can. Become an athlete because the true sign of an athlete is if I can put you in an uncomfortable situation or position and you figure it out because you're a good enough athlete to do it. And then work ethic, like just be useful. And that's what I think a lot of kids do. They want to specialize, they want to do these things. That actually doesn't help you.
Yeah.
It's gonna wear you out. And I see it more and more with the guys coming up through in my position, trying to mentor them and teach them about being a professional. All they've ever done is football. And it wears you out. And by the time you get to this level, if you're fortunate enough to get here, it is very much a business and you have to treat it as such, but you have to have outlets to relax, to get away from football. And that's why playing other sports or having other hobbies is really a good thing at this level. And like the NIL stuff, I get it. I think it's a benefit for some of those kids, but if you're portal hopping because you're just chasing the money, man,
Yeah.
stay as long as you can in college because the NFL is probably not going to work out for you. Because
Yeah.
when a coach rides your butt at this level, you're probably on the verge of getting fired anyway. And that money, hopefully you saved your money in college because it's not going to come from the NFL.
Do you still see a lot of young guys coming out and getting into the league, taking bad advice from,
Yes.
yeah, too many
Parents and
hangers
agents.
on? Yeah.
Parents and agents are probably two of the worst.
Parents and agents.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yep. It's interesting because I think for every professional football player, there's 4 agents. So, average it out. There's a lot of dudes trying to, make a living off of your hard work. And there's a lot of parents too, unfortunately, that are looking to ride off their kids' hard work as well because they feel, hey, I raised you, I took you to practice,
Yeah.
I did this. But last time I checked, none of those parents or agents were up at 5:30 a.m. making breakfast to eat to then go lift and then putting in the work in the weight room and then, suffering an injury and going through that. Yeah, were you an assist? Absolutely. Is there
Yeah.
is there things that you can do to help out? For sure. But, you know, sometimes parents are riding the coattails and they're living through their kids, and that's never ends up well.
Your mom kept you really well grounded from when I remember. She was a college professor, I believe. And do
Yep.
you feel like that obviously it sounds like there's not enough of that now, but does your mom still keep you grounded today?
Oh yeah, my mom talks smack to me, 100%. 100%. If something gets sideways, she'll grade ear. Oh
Yeah.
man, I got the grade ear comments. Son of
Right
a
there.
bitch.
That's
But yeah, no,
great.
she's a wise lady, and she raised two boys, working full time. So she had her things, she had everything kind of locked down and together. But yeah, she's a tough woman. My wife keeps me in check too. So
She does. Awesome. He's Gray Ruegamer. He is the director of player development with the Green Bay Packers, longtime NFL veteran, now working behind the scenes with the Packers and keeping those guys right. Gray, thanks again for joining us on the Varsity Sports Show, and yeah, we look forward to circling back.
yeah, absolutely, man. Whenever, Vince.
Awesome. Oh, that was good. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
no worries.
appreciate it. All right.